Yeah, welcome back again, and we shall continue with our code for creating our own CMS using Next.js, OpenAuth, and Cloudflare itself. But in hindsight, had not yet thought of how we are going to implement BetterAuth. I'd never really used BetterAuth, so I would advise we remove BetterAuth because, well, I've never used it and I have no idea about how to use it. And first and foremost, its documentations aren't really that easy to follow along for the first time. It has a lot of things into it, so we're going to remove everything concerning BetterAuth and we're going to implement our own authentication from scratch, and we shall improve it as time goes on. For now, what I'm going to do is remove all these BetterAuth related things, because I'm not cut out for that. I don't know how to deal with this. I've never really implemented it before, so trying to implement it right now, it's really doesn't pan out very well for me. So what we're going to do is remove all that, and we shall structure our own authentication system for ourselves. In the previous video, we had set up our schema for this, so here, and we're going to uninstall BetterAuth as well. So I added cron to our reusable use Hono and logger in order to see the logs for our reusable Hono. And let's add use C let's add this for the sake of powered by. For the sake of whatever is running in my head, so this is going to be faster, powered by. Okay, just add that for the sake of it. So in this part, we created a reusable Hono instance in order for us to reuse it in other places, and in our API we did define it here as use Hono, and since it extends Hono itself, we can define our base path as API. So making it accessible at API/Hono, which we have here available. See, inspections for the networks, and we have it here available. And yep, we have our response there. So what we're going to do next is get straight into removing Hono. First and foremost, I forgot the installation instructions for Hono. For BetterAuth. So we are going to remove BetterAuth from this structure, and okay, we have here BetterAuth. And just run pnp and install BetterAuth. See, do we have anything related? There is BetterSQL, which we don't want to uninstall because we are using it. Drizzle. Okay, I think everything for now is working just fine. So what we are going to do is we are going to create our own schema, and in order to create our schema we need to assign IDs for our users. So our tab is going to be const users. Wait a minute, let's use export const users and SQL table with users, and then close it, and then we shall define our ID as UID, and inside it we shall call it UID. That the text should be imported from up there, and it's a primary key, though we need our primary key to be generated as a string for each user. That's why we are downloading Nano ID to add into our project. PNP add. Then I'm going to also define here prettier ignore to ignore prettiers, and here what I'm going to do is set default to generate it by default. To generate our UID by default. The reason we are calling it UID is because I wish to follow the Firebase authentication method. See, let's follow this structure. For no apparent reason, you can name it whatever you want. I'm naming it that because, well, I just liked it. And we shall give it 32. Let's give it 38. The UID will have 38 in it, and we can put it UID gen and all this forward. Okay, start. So the default is 21. We are going to use 38 as our default. So when we look at Firebase inside here, it has an identifier, a provider, created, sign-in date, and then the UID. So let's create an identifier. So at later on we can actually improve on this and have other methods available for it. Identifier, and it has fire and the identifier cannot be null. We shall deal with that later on. Created at the date this account was created at and we can have created at okay, it's going to be a string, so default to created at. Okay, that covers it up. Updated that and created at for us. That covers that. So the updated at will be our sign in, and let's just try to see how this looks. Add one user, blah blah blah, at me.com/9 add. So the identifier is usually the email or the username, the provider, what kind of it of provider, then the provider, have email and password, and then define a type for it, which our type would be that. Sorry, there's something I'm definitely missing here. Const so we have email, password, and Gmail, and GitHub. Here we show add you can also have username and password, but the username and password can be easily enabled for both. Let's see. So the identifier is usually the one of the two, email or the username, and then the provider comes in, and we have the other parts come in. So created, and then the UID, which is about it. Now we shall improve on this for our own sake. So here we have const user users info. Let's call it users details. Sorry. Users details SQLite. Users details. Copy this here. Then under users details, we can have our email. We shall need it to be required for a user to provide an email. And email address. We shall use it as our primary in our in this code. Shall also want it to be unique. So we can have other details like the username, we don't really need to require the person to have the username. And then we shall have username details and that. Here let's have user, users details. Okay, which has already done that for us. So the users details, we have users details referencing user email. And then we shall have salt to store our salt and the hash code. Let's call it password hash. The password hash can't be null, it has to exist. And then we can add okay, so that's basically what we have for now. And let's generate this. So what we're going to do is we're going to first remove all the cookies that we built for this so that we start from a clean place, and migration as well. Let's delete what is inside it, and we can create a new table from scratch which is clean with our current structure. Okay, so PNP DB gen generate the database. Okay, then PNP local wait for that to get done, and then we can start the new part. Yeah, I do think it does have a few things that it's lacking. Like we also need to deal with session, like we definitely do need to deal with session. Let's put const but for now we do have this provider. Okay, and I think we can export it. Provider sort created auth and the identifier being, I'm worried that this might have kind of an issue. We might have an issue with this, and we could take the UID in, but let's try to follow this structure for ourselves. Okay, we created that, and we would wish to test this in order. Sorry, it's supposed to be DB Studio, which has been something that has disturbed me a lot. And let's do this. In order for us to test it, let's create the client side, which is user auth.ts. Is sure, and the client we create user auth.ts in order for us to create basically another Hono instance that is going to separate our main route API from the ones we are going to define that is going to be used there. So Hono, come back here, and obviously we define our Hono here, and we shall give it the name of user auth and use Hono. Import this, and we are going to as well export it as default, but also export sorry for this, how slow this is. Okay, it doesn't really do much. You can decide to not put that for now, and then here we are going to get our same, so we are going to call it users slash me. Sorry, since we are going to define it, we are going to call this me, which is supposed to return the current user, and this just return c dot text tag. Let's use JSON. Okay, so we shall use this route for testing separate from our API route. So we are going to define it here as app.route, and our route is going to be users, and we import that route users. Put it right there. So when we go to our route of users /me, we have that defined there. Now, since we wish to test our database, we're going to use user auth.post /login. Should work fine and should return c.json with nothing inside it for now, because this is going to be the post part of it. So let's see our table. It's working just fine. Now we need to define what is provided. So from our side, we shall provide an email as well as a password. And await for it from JSON. Passed from the body, and we await for it. Let's do this as create account. So this is going to be our create account. Not for now, this is just to demonstrate that our structure is actually being used correctly, or we have structured our table correctly, since we are doing this from scratch. And we can as well have the username, which we shall require when registering. We shall require our user to provide an email, username, and a password when registering. So we would need to verify these. Obviously, it would be of best to verify this, but it's fine for us not to provide that for the meanwhile time. And we shall also need our const environment we shall need const dot the database table that we used, our Drizzle instance that we defined in DB, which we're going to use this one, get database. Use this, await get database, import it, and in our get database we have DB and env, which is passing the Cloudflare context for OpenNext, and then our Drizzle, which is being passed, though our Drizzle doesn't have any schemes defined in it, which we're going to do this right now, and slash that's not where we're doing this from. Just so you know, I'm just putting that as a holder, and import as schema from just one step behind us. That's where our schema is, in the same directory. So There we go. We have our schemas defined in here as well. So now we can reuse that. We have db and env, which we are not going to technically use it here at the moment. Then we can define const create new user here, but in our scheme, as you remember, we have a structure that is a little bit different. So we are going to export type users, let's use capital, users types, insert. So insert and then export type users let's name it insert users type and then select users type. There's no update for now. In select users type, insert users type, and we are exporting it. So here we come, we should need it to have insert users type from our table. Here we go. We have identifier, so we shall have our identifier, which is going to be our email, then the provider, which here it's going to be email and password, then our password hash, which we are going to implement right now. For the time being, let's just add it as is, though we shall require to use a password hash by itself, and the rest can be defined by themselves. So we shall also define our users, This is not so good. The user details is not so good. I think we could do better off with see. Because we could mod it to JSON and rename it into account. Let's bring this up and then create export type. Else null. No, this won't work for us well. So rather than that, I'm going to use any, and I'm going to call it account. I'll figure this out later on, but for now, let's do that as is. So any, so that we can add other details into it, and I'm going to name it account. So what I'm going to do, open another tab for this, and db gen, and here account details, which we can have email, okay. So since this is any JSON and it's not really supposed to be like that, so let's leave it as any. It's supposed to be required. So email is a name, and then the other details come in there. So we have this other details there. This is just for demonstration. This is not really what we're going to do. So we shall here await db.select from users from database dot in okay. I wanted to use this to reference if already exists in database, but there is really no point in that. Insert users dot value, create users, but we shall also return result. Oh no, that's bad. So const to result dot it's supposed to have a way to return the results of this, but since I'm not getting that, let me see, const slash users slash ignore. Okay, let's just put that like that. with returning. Okay, got it. Now since we have returning results, we can have all these available to us here. Okay, and we can test this now. So let's do this. Rename that. So this is just for us to test. Sorry. Well, we don't need to drop that. Okay, we have session which we haven't implemented, so there's really no point in keeping it around. And see, okay, that is there. Now let's start afresh with this as well. As well as migration. I think we should start from 0 for both of them. Okay, so we're going to start with generate it, and then send it into Wrangler. Yes, and there we go. Executed that correctly. That is being refreshed here. Just a minute, refresh this, start the studio again. Okay, and we have this done for us. So cow just a minute. Okay, we got this here, so I was way wrong on that. And let's see. So we have our account created successfully as the result has been returned, and here see, here we have everything done. Okay, our identifier, email provider, email and password, then secure, and so on. Now we need to get to the part where we implement a more secure structure for it. So for this we shall use algro for securing our password. We shall use argon2. Okay, clear this and pnp, and it's argon2 to our structure, and I mean, there's really no point in defining it because it's quite really already defined on its own, but for the sake of doing this, we can define this, and then we get to first structuring it. It's not going to be secure yet. We shall do the securing later on. Come on, don't disappoint me, you laptop. Okay, we create our function to have our algo async, and let's import it. So, well, come on, import. Oh crap, this is annoying when it takes longer to import some of this. And here we go, convert that, and here we have the hash, and then we shall have the verification part of it. And since we have hash and verification, we can create a type of props which will help us pass the password itself. In order for the password to be encrypted, it's going to be required for the password to exist in order for it to be passed. Props, so password, and the password is here, password, and as well as here we shall have the password, and this will have the hash. Let's say hash string, and this is going to be optional, so that the password is the main part of this. Hash is going to be here, let's call it current hash. Current hash, and there, so that when we are using it, okay, we can do this. If it is null, we return hash alone. wait a minute. So here comes the problem, because I'm now thinking about it, and I'm like, it brings a problem, because when we are hashing the password, if this is also there, it will come out as requiring the hash itself. So let's do this. No, that won't work, obviously. See. So this returns a boolean, okay, and we are going to return it as an export of hash and an export of verify. So since this returns a boolean, we can do this. Okay, the other method was fine. I didn't really need to add this there. Okay, so this should work just fine. Yep, for hashing our password, and we can't implement it here. Password hash, and here we go. Await. Use aggro. Here we go with password. And it should return as our hash. Sorry, should return the hash itself. There we are. Now let's go back to our data and delete this. We should definitely have to improve that, because this is mostly us doing testing. This, here we go. Clear, and do that again. There we go. See, refresh. And we have our passwords solved here. Instead of naming it salt, it should have been hash. So we shall improve this from password. Okay, it's password hash, and I don't know why we named it salt here. Anyway, we can keep it as that, and now we can authenticate using this and the password. So here we have this structure for login, whereby yes, we do have a couple of errors here, and this is not supposed to be hash, this is supposed to be verify, and this is supposed to verify password. So here we go. Whereby we select where, sorry, we're going to have to remove this, and where, close brackets, equals to username, sorry, not username, users identifier equals to email, should be equals to email. So the user identifier should match the email, or we can add an or here to have it reference two parts. Let's come to that. As equals to user dot salt password hash should match interesting. Here's an interesting dilemma. Okay, if this matches that, we can now confirm password. So we can confirm the password by verify here and await outgrow password and and then this is supposed to be the current password that we're going to do. This all needs to be improved. Please don't take this as something that is secure. This is seriously unsecure. And instead of results, we can pick out password hash and all so instead of returning a table, since we only require one thing from it, can return this, and here we can actually only return the password hash from here and reduce this code to just that. Just that. And if So we have to deal with the unidentified part of it, the string, and then the boolean part of the string, which is going to be an interesting one. But I think from here we can start the next video from here. What we're going to do next is actually implement a better structure for all of this, as well as implementing the auth structure correctly. We shall also implement other parts and then design the authentication wrapper itself. But so far that's where we're going to stop at, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to correctly do this, or else we could actually just add it here, but it would be best to make a hook out of it so that it's reusable, like something towards this. But we shall improve this from here, and I will see you in the next video when we start again. In the next video I think we should go much further, because this is taking so long to go on about. So I think I'm going to make videos in basically smaller bits to make them faster in a day, rather than making a video per day. I'm going to make more videos in a day so that we can have many other parts coming up together. So far we have dealt with that, and we are implementing our authentication, and we're going to also implement parts of our sessions and other parts of it. Yes, this will need some improvement on it, definitely, but this is mostly for demonstration, or we shall do the improvements later on. We want to get the authentication part of our code running as soon as possible, and we start implementing our dashboard right away. Okay, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.